Hi guys, it's Allie. It's been a couple of weeks, so I'm hopping on to say hi to all my friends. Just wanted to stop by and give y'all the updates. I'm just gonna give it a minute for people to hop on. Hey Will, hope you're doing okay. I miss you. Hi Sheila. Chris, hi. Melinda, hi. Well, I hope everybody is doing okay. It seems like weeks and weeks since we've been doing this quarantine thing. And, I'm so glad that we were able to get back up and running sooner rather than later. The donor program is moving forward. We've reached out to all our egg donors. The egg donors that are currently matched are calling with their periods and will be given a plan to move forward. So if you are matched with a donor and you haven't heard from me yet, you will hear from me once your donor calls with their period. I'll give you an update and let you know a tentative plan. Moving forward, if you are matched with an egg donor, I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. If you're planning to use a frozen sperm sample and that sperm is not in our office yet, make sure that you go ahead and get that scheduled. Get the sperm here so it's ready to go for when your donor is ready for her egg retrieval. I did check with the OR the other day, and one of the questions I had seen was whether our urologists are available. And so in our Albany area and Syracuse, both our urologists are available. The Albany area, the urologist is not on site. So if your partner has to have a PESA in Albany, it's important for you to reach out because you do need to have a consult with that urologist, become a patient of his, and then they will help arrange to have your PESA done and get that sperm frozen so it's ready to go for the retrieval day. In some cases, I think they have been able to use a fresh sperm sample, but I think in most cases they freeze ahead of time so they're prepared and ready to go. I did make myself a quick list. I already talked about reaching out to the donors and making sure the sperm is here. I wanted to talk about PGT testing because that is a common question with my recipients. PGT testing is not generally indicated when you're using a donor egg. I think that because the percentages of abnormal embryos that a young person makes versus somebody who's 35 and older is much less. And so to leave those embryos alone and transfer them one at a time is typically the best way to move forward. Even PGT testing doesn't guarantee you a normal, healthy child. And so the idea is that an abnormal embryo typically is not going to take. And so to keep transferring, continue to transfer until you get that normal, healthy pregnancy, especially when using a donor egg, is typically the best route. Unless there's a known genetic issue with the sperm source, it's again just not typically recommended. If you do plan to do PGT testing with donor eggs, I always tell people that you want to start with the largest number of eggs you possibly can. Usually anywhere between 8 and 12 is a good number. When we use frozen eggs, we typically lose some eggs in a freeze thaw. And so our frozen egg packages will typically yield a lesser quantity of embryos overall. And so that's why you'll hear me say to a lot of you that, if you're doing this PGT testing, you want to make sure that you use fresh eggs. I want you to maximize your number of embryos. Because every fertilized embryo, about 50% of those typically make it to the blastocyst phase, where we can then biopsy those embryos and send that tissue off for testing. And so if you're starting, let's say, for example, you're starting with 6 eggs, 4 of those eggs fertilize, you're looking at 2 embryos to biopsy and send off for testing. It's important for you to know that this PGT testing is not perfect. And so your results may not be 100% accurate. Some embryos that come back, the thought is that some embryos that come back reading as though they're abnormal could potentially be normal embryos. And so not knowing that for sure, you're likely not going to transfer that embryo. So if you're only testing 2, you will be very limited. And so that is what I have to say about PGT testing right now. I don't want to sound like a broken record. I talk about it all the time. But we are supportive. If that is something you want to do, I'm happy to help you with that. Just make sure there are some recipients that I think assume that embryos are tested and don't let us know how they want to proceed until the last minute. Please let me know when you match with an egg donor that this is something you want to do so that I can discuss that with you in detail and make those appropriate arrangements. So I talked about the banked eggs. When using banked eggs, though, I did want to mention to everybody that if the semen analysis, if your sperm source it shows the semen analysis is hugely abnormal, you really want to consider starting with fresh eggs as well. Again, because banked eggs may yield a lesser quantity of embryos. When we freeze and thaw one single cell, if you can imagine, that's a very delicate process. And so it's common to lose a couple of eggs in the freeze thaw. Sure, some egg thaws have gone very well. We've had great results, but some are not as great. And so you want to start off with the maximum number of eggs to inject that sperm into to maximize your fertilization. And so it's something to seriously consider when moving forward. Abnormal semen analysis, use fresh eggs. If you need to have a PESA, if your partner needs to have a PESA for us to obtain his sperm sample, use fresh eggs. Maximize your chances at having success. We want the best for you. And so I think that's all I have for today. I know it's a very short live, but let me just take a look. Chris, hi, I see you. You're having your consult tomorrow. If you are using donor eggs, the doctor will send us a message and we will send you a message through your portal with the information. That's how we start off with all our recipients. We send a message through that patient portal along with our recipient information packet. My message has a link to my video on our website. If you're not yet a patient, make sure that you go to the website. There's a lot of resources there, a lot of information. My video will walk you through everything, give you all that helpful information. I'd like for you to see the video and review the information in your portal before we talk over the phone, because it makes life easier. And I want to be there, and I want to be able to spend enough time with all our recipients. Jackie and I just looked at the number of new recipients that are coming in. We looked at all our messages today. There had to be 30 new recipients today. So it's amazing. The business is great. We're moving forward. We're helping so many people, but help us get that information to you by reviewing first, and then we're here to help answer your questions, and then we can move on and help as many people as we possibly can. So we appreciate you doing that for us. Let me take a look. I want to just see if there's any questions here that I can help with. Okay, so does the sperm sample need to be provided on site if we happen to be out of state? A lot of our recipients from out of state, it's often cheaper to come to our office, freeze a sperm sample ahead of time, have it frozen and ready to go. So to go ahead and book a flight, it's important that you book your appointment to freeze your sperm sample first. But yes, it's great. Get the sperm here and have it ready to go. That way there's no last minute travel arrangements that need to be made when your donor's ready for egg retrieval. Certainly you'll know ahead of time about when that egg retrieval is going to happen, but we really don't know until about 48 hours in advance, 100% for sure when that donor is going to be retrieved. And so I always tell people, don't make your travel arrangements at the donor's baseline 2 weeks before her egg retrieval, because we don't know 100% when it's going to happen. So to help eliminate that stress of booking last minute travel, yes, freeze your sperm ahead of time, unless of course your partner has a severely abnormal semen analysis. If his count is super low, if his morphology is super low, you may want to travel here last minute, provide that fresh sperm sample, but we need the sperm sample, whether it's fresh or frozen, on egg retrieval day. Chris Ann praying to get a big fat positive. Baby dust to you. Oh, is that you're replying to Ty? Ty, baby dust, prayers to you. I wish you the best of luck. Is the Syracuse office open to do the transfer of embryos yet? Yes, we're moving forward. We're planning embryo transfers. So yes, absolutely. Who else can I talk to? My AMH level is super low for my age, 0.26. Talking to doctor from Syracuse tomorrow. Is IUI pointless with that level? So the AMH serves as a guideline. It tells us how aggressive we should be. It doesn't tell us who is and who is not going to get pregnant. And so if you're responding to medications, if you're developing that follicle that's needed to trigger and follow up with an IUI, then you can absolutely move forward with an IUI. Again, it's a guideline that kind of shows us how aggressive we should be. Now, if you decide to move forward with an IUI cycle and after a couple times you're not having any luck, you really should consider taking it to the next level and maybe consider IVF. Or even donor eggs. And that's what Jackie and I are here to help you with. Ashley, Renee, 0.002 here too. If either of you want to talk further about donor eggs, if we haven't talked yet, it is nice to just establish that conversation, whether you're ready to move forward or not. I can get you that information. At least you can start looking and just explore your options should you need donor eggs at some point. So yes, we're here to help, and you can message me through the portal if you just have some general questions. I'm going to be 42 and scared to do IVF, single and using sperm donor, thinking of doing a mini IVF. AMH is under 1. What do you think? I think that that I want you to do what you need to do, take the steps that you need to take moving forward. Sperm is very expensive. Medications for IVF are very expensive. If you do have a severely low AMH and you're looking to invest where your best success is, your best success is going to be with donor eggs. We are certainly what do I want to say? I'm looking for the right word. We're certainly supportive if you want to do an IVF cycle. We're certainly here to help you try and to help you get your best possible results. A mini IVF, there's some suggestion that lesser meds will yield better quality eggs overall, and that's great. But sometimes it takes those higher dose medications to get you to respond and get those eggs we're looking for. So talk to the doctor. If you haven't spoken to a doctor about protocol, maybe you need to schedule a follow-up talk. come up with a good solid protocol that both you and the doctor feel comfortable moving forward with. And us nurses can also help with that. If you're anxious to move forward and you're unable to talk to a doctor sooner rather than later, reach out to one of the nurses at our clinic. We can certainly help come up with a plan for you. But again, if you need information about our donor program, I am here to help. Send me a message through your portal. That's the best way to get a hold of me. Can I use generic HMG 75 units instead of Menopur? Absolutely. I prefer Menopur, but the generic is absolutely an option if that saves you money. And for whatever, it's certainly not going to hurt. And if there are benefits, then great. It's worth trying if that's what helps get you to where you need to be. Do you have frozen eggs? Yes, we do. We have frozen eggs, although our banked egg list is limited. When this quarantine hit and things were shut down, a lot of recipients purchased whatever banked eggs we had, so that when we were ready to move forward, or when we opened the doors again and started our cycles again, they could be ready to move forward as well. And so since we haven't been cycling our egg donors, unfortunately, that list has dwindled and we've been unable to replenish. But I expect a lot of donor egg cycles to happen at the end of May, early June. And so that list is going to grow. What happens is we match our egg donors with 1 to 2 recipients, sometimes 3, depending on how many eggs they typically get per cycle. And so we look at that. And on egg retrieval day, each recipient that's matched with that donor gets their allotted, or whatever number of eggs they've purchased, typically 6. So each recipient gets their 6 eggs. If any recipients have purchased additional eggs, we then give them those additional eggs. Once those recipient contracts are satisfied, any eggs above and beyond that get frozen for our egg bank. And that's how we're growing our egg bank. And so those eggs will be available soon. If not now, sometimes you've got to be a little bit patient and wait for those eggs to become available again. Thoughts about PGS testing? You're 38, hubby is 44. This is a good question for one of the doctors. We're going to want to look at your history. It's typically one of those things that's offered and maybe encouraged for somebody who's 35 and older, has had miscarriages or several cycles with failed implantation, or if there is a known genetic issue, whether it's the egg source or the sperm source. So it's a great conversation to have with one of our clinicians, so that they can go over your past cycle history, your medical history, and really help you make a decision on that. It's an expensive test. I always say you have to expect to pay an additional $2,000 to $3,000 in addition to your IVF cycle, the cost of your IVF or your donor egg cycle. So you really need to plan on those costs if that's something you're considering. I think that's all I have for today. I do see a lot of other questions, but I'm going to close for now. I'll be back in 2 weeks. I try to hop on every 2 weeks. If you have other questions, message me through your patient portal. If you're not a patient yet, if you haven't established yourself, make sure you call the office and schedule a consultation. And if you do need information about our donor egg program, I'm here. Once you have scheduled your consultation, I'll be able to communicate with you through the portal. So send me a message. Send Jackie a message. She works with me. You'll see her name pop up a lot as well. And so we're here to help you. We're moving forward. Have a great Thursday, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Take care, guys.